All right, welcome to today's Explainer. We're tackling something huge today, workplace communication. Specifically, we're going to decode the totally unwritten rules of human resources. You know, nobody sits you down before your very first job and says, hey, there's a hidden rule book that's going to determine exactly how your career unfolds. But there absolutely is. So today, we're going to arm you with that knowledge. We are breaking down exactly what you should never, ever say when you step into an HR office, so you can walk in completely prepared and protect your career.
So, let's just dive right in with a cautionary tale. And let me tell you about a guy named Marcus. Honestly, Marcus was the perfect employee. He'd been at his company for 6 years. Never late, never missed a deadline, always the first one to stay late. But new management came in, 2 people quit without being replaced, and suddenly Marcus is doing the work of 3 people but only getting paid for 1. After just a brutal week of feeling totally burned out, a well-meaning coworker pulled him aside and gave him this terrible piece of advice. Bro, just go talk to HR. That is what they are there for. And, well, Marcus took the advice. He walked in, sat down, and just opened up completely.
The timeline of what happened next is honestly shocking and brutally swift. On day 1, Marcus vented about his burnout, his manager, how he was looking for other jobs, and he even casually threw out that some things happening might not be legal. HR nodded, they smiled, they said all the right things. But look at week 3. He's sitting in a meeting staring at a performance improvement plan with his name on it. By week 9, he was carrying a cardboard box out of a building that he literally helped build. Now, Marcus's fatal mistake wasn't that he was bad at his job. It was that he walked into an office without understanding the rules of the room.
Okay, let's move to Section 1, the paradigm shift. HR's true purpose. To make sure what happened to Marcus never happens to you, we really need to understand a massive paradigm shift. Listen, HR is not evil, and the workplace isn't a war zone, but you have got to lock this definition into your brain. Human resources exists to protect the company from liability. Period. That is their explicit job description. Their primary function is not to safeguard your personal well-being, and it's not to champion your career growth. By design, their loyalty is to the company.
So, what does this all mean for you? It means absolutely everything you say in that office gets filtered through one single defining question: is this a risk to the organization? Once you truly grasp this filter, the unwritten rules of what to say and what to absolutely avoid saying click instantly into place.
Moving on to Section 2, the emotion trap. Venting versus strategy.
Let's talk about the super dangerous trap of treating HR like your personal therapist when you're feeling overwhelmed. Let's compare an emotional complaint with a strategic conversation. If you walk in and say, I hate my manager, you instantly become a conflict file. Seriously, research published in the Journal of Applied Psychology actually confirms this. Employees who frame complaints as personal grievances are significantly more likely to face negative performance reviews. Why? Because the fastest way to resolve a conflict is just to manage the person who brought it up. But look at the strategic translation. I have been experiencing some challenges and would like to discuss possible solutions. It's the exact same problem, but a completely different outcome. You are now a professional solving a business issue, not just a disgruntled employee.
We see the exact same trap when it comes to workload. When you are drowning in tasks, walking in and saying, I have been so stressed and overwhelmed with no structure, that quietly puts your name on a watch list for struggling employees. But if you shift your language, pointing out real capacity issues that I want to address proactively, you've just identified a structural business challenge. You sound like a leader managing resources, instead of someone who's just falling apart at the seams.
Now let's be incredibly clear here. Your feelings? They're totally valid. The American Institute of Stress reported that a staggering 83% of U.S. workers experience work-related stress. You are definitely not weak for feeling it because almost everyone does. But strategically speaking, HR is just the wrong place to blindly vent about it. If you unload all your raw, unfiltered frustration onto HR and then say something like, sorry, I just needed to vent, you are literally committing career sabotage. Listen closely because this is a really vital, unwritten rule. Emotion, without documentation, gets filed under unstable. In just one sentence, your temporary feelings become your permanent professional reputation. You stop being the high performer under pressure, and you become a huge question mark. Vent to your friends, vent at the gym, go see a therapist. Just do it anywhere except in that office.
Here's another massive emotion trap. When your company restructures or makes a call you really disagree with, saying, honestly, I do not trust leadership is essentially complaining to someone's best friend about them. Remember who built HR. It immediately flags you as a disengaged flight risk. But if you use a strategic translation, asking to understand the direction so you can stay aligned, you're raising the exact same concern, but you're positioning yourself as a dedicated, problem-solving contributor.
All right, Section 3, leverage and legal landmines.
Let's move into our next bucket of mistakes, the really sensitive topics of compensation, rumors, and legal threats. Imagine finding out that a lazier coworker, someone who does half the work you do, makes $12,000 more a year than you. You're furious, and rightfully so. But if you storm into HR and just say, "I do not get paid enough, this isn't right," you have just handed away every single piece of leverage you had before the conversation even started.
Look, data from the Pew Research Center shows that 63% of U.S. workers who quit cite low pay as a primary reason. Most people are underpaid. That's just a massive reality of the workforce. But walking in there without market data from places like Glassdoor or the Bureau of Labor Statistics is kind of like showing up to a poker game without any cards. You have to bring data to negotiate a business transaction. A complaint without hard numbers just gets noted in a file.
And we really need to shatter the illusion of the casual hallway chat right now. Marcus made this exact mistake, joking off the record that his manager had it out for him. Guys, there is no such thing as off the record at work. According to the Society for Human Resource Management, HR professionals are legally required to document disclosures related to harassment, discrimination, safety violations, and legal threats. It literally doesn't matter if you say it at happy hour or in the elevator. If you wouldn't want it printed out and read aloud to your boss, do not say it.
Another major landmine is threatening to quit just to get what you want. You might think telling HR you're considering leaving will make them wake up and suddenly realize your value. Spoiler alert, it usually doesn't. SHRM data actually shows that employees who signal departure intentions get fewer development opportunities, and they're frequently passed over for bonuses. The absolute second you signal you might leave, the company stops building a future around you. I mean, why would they invest their limited budget in someone who might be gone next month?
You also need to beware of the hearsay trap. If a coworker tells you a rumor about, say, layoffs, and you bring it up to HR by saying, "My coworker told me, you just burned 2 people. You look like you're wrapped up in workplace politics, and you just flagged your poor coworker for leaking internal chatter." The unwritten rule here is super strict, and it is non-negotiable. Only speak to what you personally witnessed. Stick to exact dates, incidents, and specifics only.
Which brings us right back to Marcus's biggest mistake of all. In his final HR meeting, with absolutely zero documentation or a lawyer, he threw out the word illegal. Now, if you genuinely face discrimination or hostile environments, you absolutely have real legal protections. But check out the EEOC's 2023 annual report. It reveals a really startling truth. Retaliation is the most frequently cited charge in workplace discrimination claims, sitting at over 56%. Workplace retaliation is incredibly common, and blindly accusing a company without a shield leaves you completely exposed.
The very moment those words, "I am going to sue," leave your mouth, even if it's just out of pure frustration, the conversation stops being human. It becomes purely legal. You've just put the company on notice without having any protection in place for yourself. They are going to immediately lawyer up while you're sitting there unrepresented. If you truly believe you have a case, your very first call needs to be to an employment attorney, not HR.
Okay, Section 4, the preparation playbook. Let's get practical.
So how do we actually navigate all of this safely? Here are your 3 vital rules for surviving HR. Step 1. Speak in facts, not feelings. You've got to strip the emotion out of your statements. Step 2. Know the specific outcome you want. Are you asking for a timeline for a compensation review? Do you want documented acknowledgement of your workload? Know your exact ask before you even sit down. And step 3, write it down before you go. Write out what happened, what you want, and how you'll respond if the conversation goes sideways. Preparation is quite literally the only difference between walking in vulnerable and walking out successful.
Remember Marcus? He didn't do any of those 3 things. He went in open, trusting, and with absolutely no plan. 8 months later, he did finally find a new job, but he had to take a pay cut and start completely over from scratch at a place where nobody even knew his track record. Today, when someone at his new job suggests blindly going to HR to vent, Marcus just smiles and stays completely silent. He learned the hard way the long-term cost of not knowing the rules.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Most people do not lose at work because they aren't capable. They lose because they said the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person. The lesson here isn't to stop being a real, authentic person. It's to be incredibly strategic about where you put your truth.
So, are you walking into your next workplace meeting fully prepared, or are you leaving your career completely vulnerable? Make sure to share the insights from this explainer with anyone you know who's about to step into an HR office. It honestly just might save their career.